Hi friends, Krista here. Thanks for stopping by Books and Jams. I know I'm super late with today's video, but we are going to talk about all the books that I read in the month of February. Somehow it's already the middle of March. I don't know how that happened, but here we are. 12 days into March already. And I still have not talked about all that I read in the month of February. So I'm going to take a few minutes today to do that with you. And I only have 9 books to talk about. And I say only because typically I'm more around like 12 or 14 books a month. But in February, it was only a 9-book month for me. And I could feel it. I felt not quite slumpy, but it just felt a little off. And a good part of that is because Jordan was in the hospital for the whole month of February. And he's still there. Not sure when this is going up. But as of Sunday, March 12th, he's still in the hospital. So it's just been a little off. My world has been a little off. But I do have 9 books to talk about, and so let's just dive right in. 3 of these I'm not actually going to talk about because I have already wrapped up these 3, and they're the books that I read like Keisha, and they are The Small Spaces by Catherine Arden, The Good Sister by Sally Hepworth, and The Children on the Hill by Jennifer McMahon. If you would like to know my thoughts on these, there is a whole video where I talk about them and kind of give you my thoughts right after reading them, but I will say they surprised me in a lovely way. Not a lovely way. None of them are lovely reads. But I was pleasantly surprised that I enjoyed all 3 of these, even though they're not quite in my comfort zone. So I will say that, but if you want deeper thoughts on any of those, go ahead and check out that video. But now I'll talk about some more. I'll start with the 2 books that are connected to my Patreon. Every month I do a book club with my patrons, and in February we read Murder at Malwyn Hall by Colleen Cambridge. This is the first in a new mystery series, the Phillida Bright mystery series. And I believe book 2 is already out, and I think book 3 is coming out soon. Phillida Bright is the housekeeper in Agatha Christie's home. So it's kind of fun because it's a familiar murder mystery writer, Agatha Christie, and then this murder happens at a house party at her house. And Phillida Bright is the housekeeper, and she takes it upon herself to solve the mystery. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I think I ended up giving it 4 stars. There was a lot that I really did like about it. I liked the little moments of humor that were thrown in there. I liked the banter between Phillida and the chauffeur, Branson, I think was his name. I liked that Phillida had a lot of respect. She kind of was modeling her sleuthing after Hercule Poirot. I think she kind of had a fictional crush on him and wanted to do everything she could to be just like him. But there were some humorous moments. You did have to suspend your disbelief quite a bit. But in this story, there's a house party at the Christie at Malwyn House, which is where Agatha Christie lives with her new husband of just a couple years. And someone dies in the library, and the inspector and the constable that come are kind of ridiculous and not doing their job well at all. And so Phillida is the one that finds all the clues and figures out what happens. And then she has this moment at the end where everybody gathers together and she lays it all out before them and explains what happened. So it was kind of fun. There were a lot of characters because of this house party. We're kind of getting to know all the different people at the house party, but we're also all the guests who come to the house party, but we're also getting to know a lot of the people below stairs. But it did have a almost Downton Abbey feel where you're getting to know both the workers and the people who are there as visitors. And I liked all that. But my favorite part is probably the banter between her and the chauffeur. And the fact that we didn't get to know a lot about her backstory. I'm hoping in future books to learn more about her because there's definitely some mystery surrounding Phillida Bright herself. I definitely feel like I would continue this series, and I thought it was a lot of fun. The other Patreon connected book is one every month I choose a book out of a hat, and this month I picked Tales from the Cafe by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. This is the sequel to Before the Coffee Gets Cold, and in this book there are 4 short stories, and I am counting them as short stories. I forgot. I need to mark them off on my chart for short stories this year. Each of them are not really connected to the other than the fact that it's about 4 people who travel through time in this cafe, in this specific chair. We do learn a little bit more about some of the people in the cafe. There's still just something about these books that doesn't really connect fully with me. I don't know if it's the translation or if it's the writing itself. I just feel disconnected from the stories. And so I don't feel really drawn in. I don't feel like I really care. I feel like this one connected with me a little bit more than the first one, but I'm not eager to go run and pick up the third book. I know there's a third one already out. And I'm just like, if I read it, I read it. If I don't, I don't. I did love reading this with Deanne, one of my patrons. We read it together. And yeah, it just was okay for me. Just like kind of a 3-star read. Am I glad I read it? Sure. Would I have missed it if I didn't read it? No. It's kind of like, it was all right. I did spin a wheel to read one of my 12 books that I'd like to read this year, and I picked Hotel on the Corner of Bitter and Sweet by Jamie Ford, and I really liked this one. I'm very interested in reading more books that involve the Japanese internment here in America and how horribly people were treated because of the fear during and right after World War II. And in this book, we follow a Chinese man in the 1980s, but also we learn about what happened with him in the 1940s when he was a young kid in school and becomes best friends with a young Japanese girl, and how his family responds to that and her family, and what happens when her and her family are sent to an internment camp. And I thought this was lovely. I was fuming with one of the parents in here and just the way things were handled, but I guess culturally, maybe it was a little bit different. But I love that it brought up some emotions for me. I always like that. Whether it's tears or anger or joy, laughter, whatever. I always like it when an author can evoke some kind of emotion in me because of their writing. But yeah, I really am glad that I finally read this. It's been on my shelves for a very long time. And Jamie Ford is actually coming to my area to speak about his newer book, The Many Daughters of Afang Moy. I don't think I'm going to get to read that before he comes, but at least I've read one book by him so far. So that was Hotel at the Corner of Bitter and Sweet. Very good. I think I ended up giving it 4 stars. I reread a book in February, and it's Ink and Bone by Rachel Kane. And I absolutely love this cover. I love it all, but unfortunately I am not going to continue with this series, and I am going to unhaul this book and the 2 others that I already have in this series. This is the Great Library series. It is a YA series, fantasy. In this world, there is one great library in Alexandria, and all of the books are supposed to be at the Library of Alexandria, but of course there's a black market for books, and we follow Jess, whose family works in the black market. His dad works in the black market selling and trading and whatever with books. Jess gets an opportunity to go and work at the Great Library. His dad, of course, wants him to go kind of be an inside person where there are all these other books, potentially smuggling some out, whatever. But we kind of learn about some political situations at the Great Library and differences of thought, and Jess kind of gets mixed up in all of that. I just found this to be I don't know. I really just didn't care for the way that this was written. I didn't get drawn into the story. I found myself bored or confused for the majority of the book. It didn't really explain the world well enough. It didn't explain the tensions that were supposed to be there. I didn't feel that. I think the story has so much potential, and it definitely did not live up to its potential. I think I gave this 3 stars the first time I read it. I'm probably just giving it 2 stars this time around. I think it does pick up by the end, but I spent a lot of the book not wanting to be reading this. But I did buddy read this with Emily Reads, so I wanted to finish it because I love doing a buddy read, but unfortunately it just wasn't working for me, and the beautiful cover isn't enough for me. So I'm going to be unhauling this series and taking it off my list, which is always good to have one less series to be working on. And sadly, it just didn't work for me. The final 2 books that I read were from my Christmas book exchange cart. I'm so excited that I've already made some progress in reading some of my Christmas book exchange books. So yay for me. I did pick 3. I only got to 2 of them during my live chat with the BookTube besties, Sarah, Amanda, Lindsay, and I, where we talk about our Christmas book exchange, and each of them picked one that they were excited for me to read. And so I put those on my February TBR. So Amanda wanted me to read Butterfly Yellow by Tanha Lai. And this is a YA novel that kind of takes place around the time of the Vietnam War. And we have this young Vietnamese girl who tries to escape to America with her little brother during the war and to keep themselves safe. She doesn't really tell her parents what she's doing. They go to the airport for like the child export or something, like trying to get children out of the country. And somehow only her little brother is allowed to go. And she has to stay in Vietnam. So then she has to go back home and tell her parents what she has done. And her brother was kind of rushed and taken away from her. She was only 11 or 12 at the time. She was quite young, 12 or 13 maybe, but didn't really fully understand what she was doing. But her brother got taken to America and was adopted by a family in Texas. But for years, her and her family saved up money so that they could go and try to find her brother. By the time they have enough money, only her and her mother are able to go. Throughout this story, we also learn about their journey and what happened to the mom, because when it comes right down to it, the sister is the only one who arrives in America. And so they have family, an uncle or a cousin or something that she is able to connect with, and then goes in search of her brother, who has been living for years now with an adoptive family. So it just tells the story of this young girl, and I think most of it takes place in Texas, and the people that she comes in contact with, a young boy, a teenage boy who ends up driving her to try to find her brother. And he is like a wannabe rodeo star, wannabe cowboy, and just the interactions between our main character, Hong, and this rodeo cowboy dude. I thought was pretty accurate, like young teenage, well, I guess not super young. They're older at this point, but 16-ish, 17 years old. But English is her second language, so trying to understand and communicate, and she's super quiet, but there were so many things about this that I really liked. I have enjoyed other books by Tan Ha Lai, other middle grade books by her, but this is my first of her YA books. I don't know if she has more of them, but one other thing I will say is that I did listen to this on audio, and I'm so glad that I did, because I think in reading it in print, some of the broken English that's spelled out phonetically would have been a little difficult. There's a lot of Vietnamese in here as well. And I just think listening to it and hearing it read to me was the way to go for sure. And I will say that Leroy, the rodeo wannabe, was a sweetheart, a big old sweetheart. So I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much, Amanda, for gifting it to me. I'm so glad that I read it. The final book that I read in February is Project 1065. World War II novel by Alan Gratz. And in this one, we follow Michael O'Shaughnessy. His parents are Irish ambassadors in Germany, and he goes to school in Germany, and he's lived there for years. And he kind of ends up becoming part of Hitler Youth. He really doesn't want to, but he learns that he kind of has to. His parents are spies. He learns that along the way. And then he wants to kind of join them in fighting against Nazi Germany. This is definitely an action-packed story, and I did have to suspend my disbelief a couple of times. But I do appreciate how it brings up how difficult it would have been to speak up against the Nazis. I mean, it feels like, from an outsider's perspective, how obviously wrong they were, but when you're in the midst of that kind of a situation, how difficult it would have been to speak out and say anything against what was the norm of the day. I liked the look at Hitler Youth. It's not something that I've read very much about. So in this one, Michael has to join Hitler Youth, and how joining that affected so many young people. It was, in particular, one of his friends that was kind of bullied for a long time, but once he became a Hitler Youth and he was kind of conscripted to some of these secret missions and things, this boy totally let the power go to his head and just became a totally different person, and somebody that he wanted to be now. Instead of being bullied, he gets to be the one in charge. And the difficulty of a situation like that. I appreciated some of those conversations that could be had. from this one. I do wish that there was a little bit more character development. I guess I just didn't really end up caring about any of the people in here. It was definitely just more action packed, but I thought it was a good story and I'm glad that I read it. And I really do like Alan Gratz. This just wasn't one of my favorites by him. So I'm really glad I read a little bit of different things this month. So some historical fiction, a little bit here from different parts of the world, a fantasy that I didn't love, one of my old, like been on my TBR for a long time, and some Patreon books, as well as some of these kind of more intense, slightly creepy reads that I read, like Keisha from A Book Like You. So altogether, I would say it was a pretty good reading month, even though it wasn't maybe as full as some months are. I think already in March, I've read more than 9 books. So given most of them are middle grade, but I would love to chat with you if you have read any of these. What are your thoughts on them? Did you feel similarly to me or differently from me? That's is fine as well. We can have a chat about that down in the comments. I always love talking with you down there. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to talking with you in another video very soon. Bye.